Okay, today we're going to talk about two types of angle pairs, where one is complementary angles and the other is supplementary angles. So let's go ahead and get started with complementary angles. We've talked about the idea of this before, we just haven't put a formal name with what we've talked about, so if this looks familiar, as it should, then you know why. Alright, so first of all, complementary angles are angles that look like this. So these two, so let's say I have angle 1 and angle 2, and let's just do this for this example. I could say angles 1 and angles 2 are complementary. So why don't you take a few minutes and just talk about it with the people next to you as to what you would say as the definition of complementary angles. Alright, hopefully you had enough time to talk about it. If not, you can pause the video and have some more time to talk about it. But complementary angles are simply angles that when you combine them, and by combine I mean add them together, they have a measure of 90 degrees. Okay, so complementary angles, if we write that down, are angles that add up to 90 degrees. Alright, now the next example is going to be maybe a little bit easier. So if we have supplementary angles, this would be an example of supplementary angles. So if I said this was angle 1 and angle 2, assuming that line's connected, there we go. Angles 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. Take a few minutes, and this shouldn't take as long, but talk about what you think supplementary angles are. Alright, hopefully you had enough time to do that. Supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180 degrees. Those would be the definition of supplementary angles. Alright, now just because we're talking about complementary angles and supplementary angles doesn't necessarily mean that all angles have to be that. For example, let's say I have, let's say angle 1 equals 20 degrees, and angle 2, let's say that is 61 degrees. Alright, and I asked you, alright, angle 1 and angle 2, are they supplementary or complementary? Well, if you look at that, 20 and 61 only add up to 81, so therefore they would be neither. So just because we're talking about complementary angles and supplementary angles, realize there may be some in there to trick you. Alright, so why don't you flip your books open and turn to page 280. Alright, I'm going to have you try 3, 4, and 5, and these are just going to be discussions with the people next to you. Make sure we are having focused math conversations and not conversations about what you had for lunch. But numbers 3, 4, and 5, we're going to tell whether the statement is always, sometimes, or never true, and make sure you explain. So these are going to be written in your math notebooks, and after about 2 minutes or so, we will go over the answers. Alright, after you've written those down, let's take a look at the answers. So number 3, it says if x and y are supplementary angles, then x is obtuse. Alright, on this one, this is sometimes true. The reason being, if they're supplementary, in other words, they add up to 180, so let's just say x plus y equals 180. X, or in other words, one of these has to be obtuse. So let's say if x is 100, which is an obtuse angle, the other one's going to have to be 80 degrees, which would be acute. But if y, let's reverse that, if y was 100, then x would be 80. So notice in this one the statement is true because x is obtuse, but in this one it's not true because x is acute. Alright, number 4. If x and y are right angles, then x and y are supplementary angles. on number 4, you should have written that that is always true. Always true. And the reason being, simply 90 degrees plus 90 degrees always equals 180. Alright, finally number 5. We're looking at if x and y are complementary angles, then y is a right angle. So in other words, we have x plus y. That's going to equal 90. And it's saying that y is a right angle. And this one is going to be never true. And some of you might be saying, well, if y is 90, then x might be 0. 0 degrees is no angle, so therefore that's not possible. So in this one, you have to have 2 acute angles. So just make sure we're aware on that one. Alright, on 6, 7, and 8, I want you to take a few minutes and try those. And you're going to tell me whether they're complementary, supplementary, or neither. So we're going to try number 6, 7, and 8. Alright, hopefully you had enough time to do that. Number 6, I will abbreviate for these. Number 6 would be neither. Number 7, those are complementary. And number 8 is complementary as well. So if you said supplementary for number 6, if you double check your math, those do not add up to 180, so just make sure you check your math there. Alright, so now on numbers 12, 13, and 14, these are like what we worked on yesterday. So let's just take a look at number 12. It says, tell whether the angles are complementary or supplementary, and then find the value of x. So on number 12, they have a nice red box in the corner saying that that's a right angle. So those 2 angles, when you add them up, are going to be complementary. Alright, next. If they're complementary, therefore they add up to 90. So we would say 3x degrees plus 45 equals 90 degrees. There are a couple ways to do this problem, but let's just take the algebraic approach. I want to get this 3x by itself, so I have a positive 45 in the way. So to get rid of that, I'm going to subtract 45. Whatever you do to one side, you got to do to the other. Okay, so these 45's cancel out, and I'm left with 3x. 90 minus 45 is 45. So I'm saying 3 times what is 45, and to find that out, we would divide both sides by 3. Those 3's cancel out, so you're just left with x. I'll write it over here. Run out of room. And 45 divided by 3 is 15, so x would equal 15 in that one. Alright, try 13 and 14 for me, please. Once you get done, feel free to check the answers either with Mrs. Fierces or the person next to you, but we will go over these here in a minute, 13 and 14. Hopefully you had enough time to get those done, and done well, I should say. Let's take a look at 13. 13, I see another red box in the corner, so therefore it's saying that they are complementary. Alright, and complementary simply means they're going to add up to 90. So I have x minus 20 is the first angle, plus another x equals 90. Alright, so first of all, on this one I'm going to combine my like terms. I have an x here and an x here. So x plus x is 2x. So it's 2x minus 20 equals 90. I want to try to get this 2x by itself. I have a positive or negative 20 in the way, so I'm going to add 20. So these cancel out, and I'm left with 2x. And 90 plus 20 is 110. So I'm going to write that on the next page. 2x equals 110. To get x by itself, I'm simply going to divide both sides by 2. Therefore, x equals 55. Okay, and finally for the last one, number 14. Those angles form a straight line, therefore they would be supplementary. Alright, so in other words, 3x plus 25, and if we add in the second angle of 2x, that will equal 180 degrees. Alright, so on this one, again, combining like terms first. 3x and 2x gives me 5x's. Next, I'm trying to get this 5x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides. So these cancel out. I'm left with 5x equals 180 minus 25 gives you 155. Write that on the next page. Alright, so 5x equals 155. I'm going to solve for x by dividing both sides by 5. When you divide that out, x equals 31. So on number 14, they were supplementary, and x equals 31. So not a lot of new concepts here, but what I want to do is I want to help you with what your math space problems are going to look like. Alright, so you may have a problem that looks like this on your math space, and I think a lot of us are going to get the first part right automatically. So it says calculate x and give reasons. So right now this is something we talked about yesterday, and I didn't give these problems on your math space because I wanted to go over this topic specifically. So when you calculate x on this one, if I notice these lines are right here, they are lines that are intersecting, therefore the ones that are opposite are going to be equal. Okay, so in this one, x equals 139 degrees. So if I put that into math space and I hit check, to check my answer, I would get a yellow check. Hopefully you like how I did that. Which means you're not done. So in other words, you must give a reason. A lot of kids struggle with this part because they're not understanding the format, and so it's going to have you type in an answer, actually start typing in what you think the reason's going to be. And you have to be very specific because they only have very particular reasons. So on this one, I know that they're vertical angles. So what I would type in is I would just type in vertical. And what would pop up would be a saying, or not a saying, but the phrase that says vertically opposite angles are equal, or congruent, excuse me. And it says they have equal angle measures. And you have to click on it. In other words, you can't just type in a reason. You type in a keyword, and then that keyword brings up the reasons that they've listed in their program. And if you're like, how am I supposed to find it? Well, it's a good exercise in understanding the vocabulary. So let's try one more. And here's one more, probably a little bit clearer examples. This is just one where I'm trying to find the value of x, and I notice again that this is a right angle right here, so 32 plus x is going to give me the 90 degrees. So if I subtract, I got that x value of 58. Now, if you just type in complementary angles and hit check, your answer is going to be wrong. But notice how I typed in COMP for the start of complementary, and the only choice left was angles forming a right angle are complementary, sum to 90, in other words, add up to 90. And that's the reason. So I would click on that, and once I click on it, then it would give me the verification that I got it correct. So some of you may be very frustrated, but that frustration is okay. It's really going to force you to make sure you understand the vocabulary. So use your notes, use your resources, make sure you get this this done well. So ask for hints if need be. Feel free to ask your neighbor, but let's give this our best shot.